Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about our guest today, Deb Eckerling. We met, we totally connected over a million different things, and I'm so excited to bring her on and for you all to meet her. So I'm going to read her bio and then bring her on. Deb Eckerling is on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace. She is the author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, 2021 Silver IPPY Award, Self-Help, and creator of the DEB method, Deb method, see what she did there? System of Goal Setting Simplified. DEB stands for Determine Your Mission, Explore Your Options, Brainstorm Your Path. A goals strategist, corporate consultant, and workshop leader, Debra offers personal and professional planning, event strategy, and team building for executives, entrepreneurs, consultants, and companies. She has spoken on stages for TEDx, Bond 3, SCORE LA, Engaging Virtual Meetings Conference, DWEN, Agora Pulse, and more. She's the host of the Goal Chat Live show, aka The Deb Show, and the Taste Buds with Deb podcast, which I will be on next week. Although now it won't be. I have no idea when this is airing. But a week from now. Okay, so without further ado, let's meet Deb. Hi.
I think my bio is a little long. I have to fix that.
No, have you listened to this thing? I have people that have a page and a half, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to how do I shorten this without insulting them? But it's it goes on and on. Yours is great. I think it's the perfect length.
Okay. I'm convinced I will keep it at that length.
There's so much more that we left off because, when I look at your one sheet, there's so much more on there. So, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to be here and I'm very excited. So we're recording this before you're on Goal Chat Live, aka the Deb Show.
Yeah.
But this will probably be out afterwards, so we can link to your episode when this goes up.
That's crazy. I know, as my wife would say.
The miracle of technology bringing people together. Absolutely.
And Annie brought us together, and I was with Annie this weekend at Fan Expo in Chicago. Oh my God, her and Ryan are just a trip and a half. And my wife and Annie's spend money. My wife is shut up. God, no, she doesn't want to spend money. And I'm no, I want to spend money. So Annie was a total bad influence. Yes. Because we're going to Disney. Well, by the time this thing airs, we'll be back. But we're going to Disney to do Galaxy's Edge because we're giant Star Wars geeks. I may have a Mandalorian ring, which is just another story. And so her and Ryan were there. She was doing, she had a press pass. So she was doing interviewing people. And then I was walking around going, well, shit, I should probably get people for my podcast because artists are entrepreneurs. And this is about entrepreneurship. And it didn't even hit me until Annie was duh.
Well, and that's really, and one of the things that, let's jump ahead 5 spaces. One of the things I talk about is event outcome optimization and getting value from the events you attend. So when you go with the mission, and yes, to have fun is always a good mission, but if you've got a podcast, if you have a blog or web show or whatever, it's the perfect intro to anybody you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
Because it's oh, I do the show. So you've got a topic of conversation. You have a goal to get people. And I've talked with Annie about this as well. She goes to events with the goal of finding good guests for her, whether it's the webinars for the shows. So when you go to an event, whether it's expo, conference, even networking, when you set goals, you set yourself up for success.
100%. And I never thought about it. But 2 months ago, we were talking, she goes, ooh, you should try to get a press pass. And I was duh, I have a podcast. I never thought of that, right? So of course they turned me down because I never did it before. But now, because I'm going to be interviewing some people from a couple of artists, and then my wife does this thing called Gabe's Cave, which is like this. Oh, I'm gonna get it wrong. Kofi knows what it is. It's like they do like breaks where they give away like comics or artists. They feature different artists, and then the artists give their stuff away. Well, one of the featured artists was at Fan Expo, and he and I connected, and I said, would you like to be on the podcast? And he was like, yeah. And then he said something about Orlando, and we're going to be in Disney from the 5th through the 12th. And he said, why don't you come as my guest to this thing? And we were like, what? He said, well, yeah, you have your podcast and, you support my stuff. So I'd like to invite you to this thing in Orlando. Like, what? So it was crazy. It was just like all of this. Like, I thought I was the queen of networkers before. Now it's a whole different ballgame.
It really is. And I had a client a few months ago, and I have to mention also someone I met through Annie.
Annie is like the supreme connector lately. And she knows she knows who's going to like love each other. I mean,
right. Exactly. Well, and so this is somebody that I met, I think several months ago, but she was going to her first event in 3 years. And usually I call them pep talks, pre-event planning sessions. I do them for companies and for events. I'll be like the kickoff to get people prepped and ready. And she reached out, Deb, can we do a session? I'm attending my first event in 3 years and I want to get it right. So we talked about things like, the intro and best foot forward and what's going to be a win for you. But one of the things was what sort of intro, what sort of offering can you make when you meet these people that would be really good connections for you. So I think she ended up doing like a niche capsule podcast just based on, so she didn't have a regular one, but doing interviews just with people she met. So even if you don't have a regular show, if you're going to an event, whether you're press or not, because let's face it, it's great to be pressed, but even if you're not pressed, having something press-y.
If you have one of these.
Exactly. Having something press-like is a way to meet people. And when I moved to LA, I was writing for local paper. Best way to introduce yourself to a new city. Oh, I write for the local paper. Let's connect. And you never know where those relationships are going to go. So she went to this event. She had a purpose, but then she had a separate purpose, a way to connect and continue conversations with people through this capsule podcast she decided to create. So opportunities are endless when you're attending events, when you go with a plan.
To them.
Right, exactly.
You could be attending an event and not, it was so funny because, and I was talking to my mindfulness coach about this, before I was so aware and self-aware and business aware and all the stuff, I would network, but opportunities would be there that I just wouldn't even notice or I wouldn't see. Now, oh my God, there's like not one opportunity that passes me by. And not because I'm out there going, ooh, opportunity, ooh, it's these things that present themselves to me that I actually see and recognize, which has made such a big difference in my business. Huge difference.
Well, the D in the Deb method is determine your mission. And that is like the foundation is everything. So to get what you want, you need to know what you want. And that starts with determine your mission. You can call it goals, you can call it intent, whatever it is, but it starts with you and what you want to bring out in yourself, but also what you want to bring out into the world. So the 5 components of the D is visualization. And to get what you want, you need to know what that is. So when you think about it, what is that perfect life? What is that Cooltopia? You start there. And then you've got your current bio, where are you now? And then your future bio, where do you want to be at the end of the year, a year from now, by your next birthday? What does that look like for you? And from there, you can create that mission statement. Who are you? What makes you unique? And most importantly, how you help. And from that mission, you want to make it into a short and sweet motto. So mine is goal setting simplified, because your mission statements can and should be long and clunky, because you want to put all that great info in there. But having that phrase, that tagline, that log line, that's going to bring everything together. So when you're out in the world and you see opportunities, whether it's for media or potential clients or in partnerships, you can check to see, is there that alignment?
Right.
And then you know if it's a yes, great, explore. If it's a no, see if there are other benefits. If there aren't, then what am I doing? Right? But it's
my time is important.
It's a good way to weed through all the things that are out there. And then the other distinction is to when you've got the mission statement for yourself or your business, it's about helping others. But when you're creating a mission statement for going to an event, is how am I going to help myself, my business, so I can grow my business and then help others?
Right.
A little bit of a distinction, but it's really all in service to getting what you do out there to make the world a better place.
100%. And, that's why I'm in business. I mean, obviously I want to make money, but I also want to help people. I want to help people grow their business. And I know that we do. So we're all-in-one marketing solutions. And it's pretty well laid out, all-in-one marketing solutions. Like, I don't like saying one-stop shop because to me that kind of cheapens it. But we're basically the people that you come to when you don't want to deal with 20 different people to do your marketing. Pretty simple, right? So anything marketing that you need done, we can help you with.
And it fits. It's completely in alignment with who you are and what you do. And like mine is goal setting simplified. Changing your life is challenging enough.
Right.
I made the instructions really easy. So whether I am consulting or leading a workshop or my book or my show, everything is just simplified in mind. Mm-hmm. Because when you've got those easy steps, sure, it takes gifting yourself the time and energy to do the things, but you need to know what the things are.
Yes. And I think the thing too with that is you really need to know your direction. When I started to sing again a year ago, somebody said, well, I want to help you with sales. I was like, I don't even know how to sell this. I don't know. I really don't know, what I want to do at this point. And it took me a year to really kind of get my footing. And now I have somebody who's starting sales for me next week, which is insane. But I can tell you now how to sell this. And it's not selling it. It's building See, I'm 100% relationship based. It's not quantity for me, it's quality. So yes, I have somebody who's going out talking to people about what I do, but I'm meeting them. And if I meet them and I don't feel that there's a relationship there, I'm not working with them. Because if I can't build a relationship, I can't help you. And I have some people who argue about that. They're like, well, how do you know you can't help them? And it's like, because if I don't believe in what they do, if there's not that synergy there, I'm not going to be able to give them all of my effort. And that's not fair. So then I can't help them.
Red flags are there for a reason.
Thank you. Like 100%.
Right?
I had a guy, oh my God. And I don't say names, but I had my little Mandalorian helmet there and I had my little guitar stand there. It was like the beginning of Pride Month and my wife put a pride flag. My guitar was in there and she put a pride flag in it. And I didn't even notice it. Didn't even notice it. And I get on a call with this guy and the first thing that he sees is not me, but the pride flag. And he made a comment about it. And I went, oh, I didn't even know that was there. I said, it's kind of interesting. That's what you zeroed in on. And then he made a comment about being a liberal. And I said, yeah, this isn't going to work. And he goes, we didn't even talk yet. I said, you talked enough. You talked enough. And, he said, what? He was completely flabbergasted. I said, you didn't look at me. The first thing that you saw was that flag. that I didn't even see. Why am I going to work with you? Clearly, we have different values. So, and then I ended it. And he tried getting hold of me on LinkedIn a couple of times, and I ended up blocking him because he was like, I don't understand. I was like, that's the problem. And then it was just like, whatever. But, you're right. If there's a red flag, listen to it. That's the other thing. Keep your ears open and your eyes open for opportunity, but also keep your ears and eyes open for those red flags, because when you ignore them, they bite you in the ass every single time.
I've got a good story that relates to it. It's not as direct as yours, but it illustrates the point. Well,
have you met me? I mean,
and this is something, well, first of all, when you say no to something, it also gives someone else an opportunity to say yes. When you say no to something that's not a fit, it's saying yes to yourself.
Right.
And a few years ago, someone said, hey, Deb, I'm doing this women's panel. Will you be on it? And friend, sure, of course, absolutely. And the minute I said yes, I regretted it. And it wasn't like, it was women in business. Now, I've been on my own for years, but I worked in corporate for enough that I was very comfortable on the topic, but it still wasn't my happy place. But I made the commitment. I was going to do it. It was fine. Wouldn't you know, the morning of, the venue fell through and it was canceled. And when she rescheduled it, yes, thank you, universe. When she rescheduled, it was for January. And I said, it's goal season. I can't commit to anything that is not in direct alignment with what I do beginning of the year.
Right.
And granted, for me, year round is goal season. So I start the year in December, and then January when everybody else starts it, and then the beginning of summer, beginning of fall.
December, I love
it. Right? Running start into the new year. And so I gracefully bowed out, and something came up for that date and time that was in alignment with me, and I wouldn't have been able to accept it. And had I not bailed on the thing that I shouldn't have said yes to in the first place.
That you shouldn't have said yes to. So I said this to my wife, and she was like, no. And I went, no. I said, if I turn something down, the universe is making room for the right thing. And so she goes, that doesn't make any sense. I said, it makes 100% sense. I said, think about it. If I take on that thing, because she just thinks dollars, and she's an engineer. So she doesn't, and she works in corporate. And so she's like in a different arena. But when I speak to people who are entrepreneurs, who own their own businesses, who've been in this, they're like, oh my God, 100%. Because every single time something doesn't align with my values, I turn it down. And it's like a full-bodied no. It's not even like, well, put it this way. If it's not a full-bodied yes, I don't do it. Because
it's either hell yes or no.
Yes, 100%. And so and it's been every single time when I turn it down, there's a reason, because something else more in alignment with who I am and what I do takes its place. And so we had the example of it last week where I had said a hell no, to that guy. And something way more in alignment came in, my ideal client, like my ideal golden egg client that needs all of my services, that trusts me, that trusts my judgment, that knows I'm the right person for him. And it's amazing. It's just amazing. And it ended up being more than what that would have been. So, the universe works in amazing ways. And I see it like every day.
But you are also open to it.
Yes.
Well, not everybody is open to it, right? And this is the big thing about what I do with Deb. It's foundational. To get what you want, you need to know what that is. So it starts with determining your mission, and then it's explore your options. Okay, I've got this mission in life. So how am I going to present myself in the world? Okay, I'm an expert on this. So what do I do? Do I write a book, start a blog, create a course? What is it? So that there's some brainstorming involved, narrowing it down, talking to your connections and your connectors to get more information So you figure out what is next for you, and then brainstorm your path is, okay, this is my mission. This is what I need to do. That's all laying out all of the goals, whether it's like the personal and professional, the big goals, the little goals, putting everything out there, divide and conquer, making a plan so you can turn those goals into reality. But it starts again with that determine your mission, because if you don't know what you're going for, where are you going to end up?
Well, exactly.
I will answer that.
Go ahead.
Probably not where you're risking. And that's where I differ from a lot of goal setting. I want to use the air quotes, a lot of goal setting experts. It's, yes, you want to get to the end of the rainbow, but where's the rainbow?
Right.
You need to know what that means for you. What is your goaltopia? And it also is allowing for what you were talking about before, allowing for what's possible. So other things can come in your path when you are open to it, right? So I'll give you a good Deb example. So I love working with clients on goals. I love doing workshops for events and for companies, because you get that networking magic in there. It's not just information, but it's the opportunity to connect people. But it's the summer and it's a little quiet. Okay, it's quiet. I'm okay with quiet. And then I get an email. Deb, will you help me write my book? Okay. This is one of those things that, so I do goals for projects as well as for people. It's not something that I say that I do, but it's something that I love to do, is put projects together. My background is communications and project management, but it's the same thing. You know, you have to be open, you have to give the space. And I love a good, chewy project, like nobody's business. So Annie's book, that's another really good example, because I helped her on that. So Annie did The Coach Who Would Not Sell. And her original concept was this cautionary tale. And I said, that's great, but wouldn't it be even better if you gave advice to this fictional character who's having so much trouble? And that's how it developed into what it became.
Wow.
So having that, I don't want to say like the gift, but the ability to see the big picture of things and put them together. That's just, it's one of my joys, because everybody has something to say, a message, a lesson, but not everybody, you can't think outside your own head, which is the other thing that's really good about Deb, is it's brainstorming, it's free writing. It's, okay, I love this. What does that mean for me? And gifting yourself the time and energy to explore those different options so you can come across the next thing that is right for you. I said a bunch of different things that may or may not have been connected, but it worked for me. Did it work for you?
It works for me. No, it 100% works for me. I mean, I think that I think it's all interconnected.
It is.
I mean, it just is. So
it just is. It's the point. Because I love putting little bows on things. The point is, like, when you are open.
Sorry, I couldn't help.
What did you say?
I said like Kasha Vanishkas, but go ahead. So
you put little bow to put a little bit of bow. Yeah, bow tie. Yeah, that was the ad. I'm a little slow, but I got there.
Sorry, I was waiting for you. Well, people out here are going, what the hell?
What are they talking?
Okay, so my family knows, but everybody else is, unless they're Jewish, is like, what did she just say? Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're like, you're what? Like putting a bow on.
What do you do? I'm all about living your best, fullest life. And maybe it's something you're doing on the side that you're developing while you've got your full-time gig. Now, for me, I do freelance writing. I write for the Jewish Journal. I am the food and community writer. And from that came to Spuds with Deb, which is bite-sized conversations about food, cooking, and community. So much fun. And something, I love talking to people. So everything that I do is in service of uplifting people or giving them tips. And whether it is in this foodie realm, which I love, or it's in the speaking and goal setting. I mean, I now do a workshop called Cooking for Productivity. Why? Because I get to combine those things, that inspiration, the motivation. I learned all these benefits. I'm a reformed non-cook, but once I discovered the benefits of cooking far outweigh the time people overthink to get it done, I'm like, okay, I'm a fan. Not only is it good for nutrition, there are other things that benefit you and also help you reach your goals. So for me, it's all about goal setting simplified, but even the little side fun things that I do, like the cooking podcast and the food writing, it's all in elevation of the things I believe. It's putting pieces together. I mean, what is cooking if not a project where you put pieces together and then have a good end result?
Exactly. Well, and that's why, when we were thinking of the name for the podcast, Kofi and I, were brainstorming one night because I was like, okay, I'm going to do the podcast. And then originally I wanted him to do it with me, but he talked me out of it. And so here we are. But that's a long story. It was like, what are we going to call? And we were like, it has to do something with stoves and gas and cooking. And it was like, oh, the cookbook, duh. Recipes for success, and then it was like this light bulb moment and everything just kind of clicked because I used to cook professionally. Duh. He is a foodie. Duh. I mean, it all just kind of, and then you with your cooking thing. So everything just kind of like aligned. I think that the stars aligned for, you and I. But so you talked earlier about being in corporate and stuff. What made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think I've always been, at least a little bit, because I've been a freelance writer my entire career. So when I moved, let me back up. So I started out doing events for Barnes & Noble. This is actually my goal origin story, because whenever I need to fill my calendar, I would just hang out in the cafe because I wanted it to be a bookstore for the community. And one day someone walked in and said, will you start a writer support group? And I said, if you think people will show up, yes, let's give it a shot. And for me, that meant, what are your goals? What are you working on? What can we celebrate? How can we support you? And what are your goals for next time? And it was a hit. And I discovered the value of goal setting firsthand. So after I moved to California, I restarted the goal group. But this entire time I had been freelance writing. Oh, that was the other part of the story. I would never ask anybody to set a goal that I wasn't prepared to do myself. So I would write a different article for each of these goal groups. That was my goal. And even if I was writing it the morning of the meeting, it would get done. So really strong power of this. Moved to LA, restarted the group, when I moved to LA, I worked at a private school for 2.5 years, and then I moved to corporate. I worked in financial services, director of communications. I was at one company for 6.5 years, and then I moved over to another as business manager, and then my boss got laid off, and that was the end of that. But I was really happy because I'm good at communication-y things, the fun side, putting projects together. But it was time. And this was, I'd say, the end of 2007. And it was the beginning of social media. So I started doing some freelance communications. And then from what I learned about social media, doing for Write On Online, which is my page/writers group that came from that original in-person group, I got a job at a startup creating their blog and developing their social media. Did that for a while. And then when that was over, did a 3-month stint at a different startup doing their social. And then from there, you don't think about your life until you're asked these questions. And then I worked for Social Media Examiner for several years. I was on their editorial team and I did special projects in the social media marketing world. So I have always done writing and goal projects. And the goal thing, just to back up a little bit more since we're going back. It's like we're pacing. Let's go back and forth a little bit more. After I started the goal group in LA, I would get, Deb, you're good at this. Can you help me finish my book? I've been trying to write it for years. We got it done in 3 months. Or Deb, you're good at this. Will you talk about goals at this conference or event? Sure. So that's really how I got more goal centric. But I was still doing this other work in freelance writing. And then 2018, when Social Media Examiner went away, I took it as an opportunity to really step into what I believe I was meant to do, which is help people figure out what they want and how to get it so they can live better, more fulfilled life. And then a couple months later, I met an agent who I had met like a few years before. Now, anybody who lives in LA knows there's the Valley and there's the West Side. Near the twains we'll meet. And I was at an event in the Valley several years ago, and he was one of the speakers. So we reconnected, and he said, "Where's your book?" And I had this book idea, The Deb Method, which I was going to self-publish. And he said, "Send me your book proposal. If your goal, which it is to be the first person people think of when they hear the word goal, why don't you at least try and get it out in a more mainstream way?" So the end of 2018, my publisher showed interest, and my book came out in January 2020. So 6 weeks before the world got changed by circumstance, out came my book to help people embrace change by choice or by circumstance. Wow. So back to what we were saying before, you don't need to make big changes in your life, but if you at least have something on the side that you're developing that you love, I mean, if you're lucky, you love everything you're doing, but at least gift yourself the time to figure out what it is you love in a small way or in a big way so you can pursue it. So in answer to your question, why I left corporate because of circumstance, but I also, like you, believe timing is everything. Mm-hmm. So the opportunities that are out there, so I had always been like semi-entrepreneur. I joke, I say, back then, if you introduced yourself as a hyphenate, like 10, 15 years ago, people looked at you like you are nuts. So you had to like pick one thing when you went to networking events. Now, if you're one thing, people look at you like you're nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got like
that.
Right, exactly. So I was definitely made for multiple projects at various stages of development. That's like a Hollywood lie. But because I love doing so many different things, and I still do. Like I said, I've got my goal life, which it's my favorite because I love helping people figure out what they want and how to get it, make a plan to succeed. And then my writer life, which also never went away. And then I get to podcasting. Now, this is really funny. I did broadcasting in college and I was in the radio and I was terrible. I mean, terrible. Terrible. And now I get to do this all the time. So, such a gift. I just think it's hilarious that my early foray into broadcasting, but the fact that I do this, that I host 2 shows, that I get to be on camera and motivate people. I mean, talk about living in joy. That is my favorite thing.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this is that, it started out as a podcast, about entrepreneurship and, for entrepreneurs, and it still is, but everybody has a journey. And so it's become a lot of focus has been on people's journeys and the people. My psychic was on here. He was like the COO of this like international company, and he left in his career to pursue his for being psychic, and he's an entrepreneur. We were doing this, so we were in a session one day, and I was like, "Oh shit, you're an entrepreneur!" And he went, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "You have to be on the podcast." And he was like, "What?" I'm like, "It'll be amazing. Like nobody will expect it." And so, what people love about my podcast now is you never know who's going to be on, because anybody to me who has their own business is an entrepreneur. So you can be an artist, like the people that I met at Comic-Con or Fan Expo, this weekend. My psychic, I know, some chefs that I'm going to have on, like all of these different people, they own their own business. So they're an entrepreneur and their stories are like freaking amazing. And that's what I think that's what I think this podcast's differentiator is from other, entrepreneurial podcasts. I think a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts are really good, but they talk more about the entrepreneurship and the business piece of it. And I'm like all over the place, which if anybody knows me, it is completely in line with who I am, because it's never a straight arrow. It's always like kind of, so it's perfect. Okay. The question.
What I was going to say is, so my podcast, when I do Gold Chat Live, which was my first pandemic project, I had a Twitter chat for 5 years. I sunsetted it last October. But it was every Sunday night was share your wins, share your goals, and then we would dive into the topic of the week. And so I think it was April, I started Gold Chat Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And it started out, okay, the first 2 episodes was just me talking. They were very short. And then I started bringing on guests and just to dive into the topic of the week. And then it evolved going into December 2020. I wanted to have a holiday party. So how do I do that when you can't leave the house? Well, okay, what if I bring together friends who don't know each other? And that's the version that is now. It's so every Monday I bring in 3 friends to dive deep into the topic of the week. And it is entrepreneurial topics. It's personal development, professional goals, the whole gamut, marketing. Then it becomes an episode of The Deb Show, which is on the Marketing Podcast Network. So it's just the audio of the live show. And it's fun because when I meet new people like you who I want to talk to more, okay, come on, be on my show. What topic is the right alignment for you?
Right.
Or I will come up with a topic and then say, okay, who do I know? And bring those people together. And the one that I just did was on creativity. And you would never know that my guests met each other like 5 minutes before we went live.
Yeah.
Because they were on, one was a cartoonist and one was a creative director. And they were so in alignment on everything, as was I. But it's just the beauty of bringing people together and having these conversations and letting people listen in. Yeah. So they get motivated, so they get inspired, so they know that their life, their path is within their control. They just have to give themselves the time and energy to do the things.
Well, and I think too, like I have my friend Steph is like, I love listening to your podcast because I feel like I'm kind of like, eavesdropping in on one of your conversations with a friend, and I mean, and that's really my favorite though, is when people are like, I listen to you when I'm working out and I'm like, good. Because then I feel like I'm getting my workout. I'm working out with you. I'm right there with you, buddy. Go ahead. Those things, I got you, so it's a lot of fun. So, being an entrepreneur, what advice would you have for somebody who's like thinking about becoming an entrepreneur like us? Because I was by, circumstance also. I wasn't like by like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. But there are people that, are still in jobs and there are people that maybe not so much. So what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, you have to start with that mission. What is it what do you love? What makes you unique? And what do you want to bring out into the world? And going back to that, when you think about the life you want, what does that look like? So you start with the big picture, the intent, and then go back and figure out, okay, how do I make this a reality? Whether it is the full-time thing that you are changing or you're starting something on the side. And now this is the first step in explore your options. I've got this technique I call directed journaling. And this is how it works. You want to schedule 3, 4, 5, 15-minute sessions with yourself. And you're just brain dumping, rewriting the answer to a question or a series of related questions. And it can be in my book, it's chapter 6. So it's the beginning of explore your options, but you can, and I say this, you can use it if you're trying to figure out your path as well. What do I want? What does that perfect life look like for me? And just the idea is to do this 3, 4, 5 times. Don't read it until after you've completed the exercise, and then go back through and see where you find your commonalities. Something you thought you loved, maybe you only mentioned it twice, but something else you mentioned like 15 times. Well, that thing, that's where you need to pay attention to. So start with that, really hone in on what would be a win for you, what can you create, what can you do, and then set an appointment with yourself, whether it's an hour a week or a half an hour twice a week, whatever, something doable that you could put in the calendar, and start exploring what's next for you and put in the time and the effort. Yes, the more time you put into it, the quicker it will happen. However, if all you have is 15, 20 minutes a week, that's still 15 to 20 minutes a week that you are gifting yourself to create something on the side or explore what your next job is going to be, whether it's a lateral move or doing something else within your company. Really tap into what you love, what gives you energy, and see how you can turn that into the thing that you do.
Awesome.
And the other thing that you said before, because so Write On Online started as writer support group, but it's actually for writers, creatives, and entrepreneurs, because as you know, if you are one, you are also the other two.
Yes.
So all those things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So,
and entrepreneurship is so, I always say it's not for the weak. And if you ever want to really get to know yourself, become an entrepreneur. Because you go through, so I like your, the goal piece is really important, right? But when you're first starting, sometimes it's like with me last year, I wasn't new at entrepreneurship, but I had just, come out of a partnership and was reigniting gas stove. See what I did there? And I didn't, it was like, I knew what I loved to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew there was a need for it, but I wasn't sure how to execute it. And for me to not know how to execute something was a big deal because, I'm like Iris, I get shit done gold feather. I mean, that's, I get stuff done. That's just, what it is. And, I found myself at this, like, what am I going to do? And then I had a client who popped up that needed everything. And they needed my expertise. So they needed my consulting. They needed promotional items. What? But okay. I have a connection, so I can get that for you. They needed video. They needed, you name it, they needed it. And it was like, I have the people to get all that done. I can make this happen. So as the year went on, I started realizing that my perfect client was the client who needed, the only thing they didn't need was a website because they're a bank. So they, had all of that in place. But all of my other clients, they need websites. They need, all the things. And as the year went on, it became really apparent with the all-in-one marketing solutions. It was like, duh, this has been your entire freaking career. My entire career. And I didn't realize it until last year because I believe everything happens for a reason, as we know, right? There are no accidents. And this was like, I am clear. I am clear on what I want to do, who I want to do it for. Everyone's like, you need to niche down. No, I don't. No, I don't. Because of what I offer, I can offer it to anybody. I prefer to offer it to service-based businesses, so coaches, trades, whatever. But I can do anything for anybody that they need. And that was a really big aha moment for me because it was like, oh my God, I can do all the things because of all of the people that I have in place. And I can be all of the things to the people that they need. So it was a really big, like, holy crap moment. And then when I scaled this year, it was like I had a meltdown because I didn't have all my systems in place. And then I got my systems in place. But the funny part for me was I looked back at where I was a year ago from that moment, and it was just like, whoa, this is where you were last year. This is where you are today. And not by accident, by design. I worked my ass off to get, where I am. And it all paid off. And it was a really big, it was a big deal to go, okay, not only do you know your shit, because, Jen Koken with, imposter syndrome, and, that always sneaks up every once in a while, right? But it's like, not only do you know your shit, you're amazing at what you do and how you connect people and how you orchestrate everything so that all of the projects work. And it was almost like, the back in the day, I don't know, in New York, they used to have, like, if you went down to like Times Square or Grand Central Station, there's like a guy out front with these cups getting ready to steal $500 from you if you're stupid enough, which I almost was, but I didn't. And they're like, you do it the first time and you get the $100. And you're like, oh, okay, I picked the right cup. And then you do it again and you're like, oh, you did awesome. Here's $200. And they're like, come on, I'll bet you the 200. And then you're like, okay. And then, like the idiot, you give them the $200, right? But for me, it was like, this isn't a game of cups. This is what pieces go where, what is going to help the client the most, like what's the next most important thing for the client. And then it became, what's the next most important thing for my business? So there's this like stepping stone. And I know I'm getting completely off topic, but
actually you're not, because when you look at things like into the brainstormer path, what I was talking about before, it's what are the different things you need to do in all of the aspects, the personal and the professional. What are the little teeny things? What are the big projects? And then you divide and conquer. So to create a website, you need to do all of these things. For business development, you need to hit these benchmarks, but within each benchmark is a task. So actually, you are giving a really good example inadvertently, right, of that. But that's it. You need to see the future, right? What is it? And when you write that future bio, you want to write it in the third person and the present tense. What do you want your bio to say about you a year from now? Okay.
So my coach gave me, oh man, I should almost read. I'm not going to read it publicly, but I'll share it with you at another time. But it was like, same thing. Who am I a year from now? Myra Skullfeder, I'm the CEO of Gasto Creative. We're a multi-million-dollar, blah, 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 whatever. And the money has nothing to do, and I really want people to be clear on this. I never wanted to be a millionaire. That was never my goal with anything. For me, if I make, money, I want to help people with it. Yes, we want our lifestyle. We want to be able to live comfortably, but I also want to be able to help. Like one of the things that I put on Facebook was Maui, right? People are bitching that they can't go to a freaking luau. And I'm like, I put this post up. It's closed. Screw you, luau. There are people there that are grieving because they lost people. So I have a friend of mine who is actually on the podcast, Bryn Revito. She runs a business down there. She has a 60-foot yacht called the Vita Mia. And it's like a coffee cruise, a sunset cruise, a dinner cruise, an amazing company. And as I was driving back from Chicago this weekend, I messaged her because I've been meaning to message her all week. She's in Waikiki, but I know that they're affected.
Right. And we should mention this is a week after the Bad Maui fires.
Yes, this is the week after. Yes.
Right.
And so I was like, what can I do to help? Because to me, I know that my purpose on this earth is to be of service. I know that without a doubt, which is, why I chose the path that I've chosen. Because with marketing, I can help people, and then I can help people, right? So it's like this like infinity thing, the little infinity sign. But it really struck me that people were so selfish that all they cared about was, oh man, I'm not going to get to go to that luau. It blew my mind. So I was like, that's not what this is about. That's not why we're here. We're here to help. you know what? Screw your luau. Take the money that you were going to spend on your Hawaii trip and give it to the Red Cross, or give part of it to the Red Cross to help these families that are in devastation right now. Forget your luau. I mean, to me, it was just like it just really struck me where some people go right away. Instead of, I want to help, they're like, oh man, now my vacation is ruined. Just like a stark, I don't know. But so that's my why. My why is because I want to give my wife, a good life when I'm gone. I can leave her stuff and I can help. That's,
And isn't that all what the crux of it, or what I believe is, we're all here for a reason. Whether your purpose is to inform, educate, entertain, or to service your product. If you are an entrepreneur, look at the reason behind what you are creating and let that help drive you. And you were talking before about how your niche is not having a niche. Your niche is the all-in-one. So whether your niche is super small or it's the umbrella of everything, it's fine. But gift yourself the time to explore, to figure out what that thing is for you. That is the first step. And that's what most people, again, I'm going to use my air quotes about the goal setting experts, they're just concerned about the endpoint. And yes, the endpoint is important. But if you don't spend the time and energy at the beginning, what's the point? And I will also say, whenever I start a new project, I go back to Deb. It works whether it's a book or when I was working on my Cooking for Productivity outreach. Every little thing, it goes back to, what is the mission behind it? What are the options to bring it to life? And then, okay, what are the steps we need to take to make it a reality? And it's really goal setting simplified. And again, little steps will get you there. Just remember that you need to celebrate the wins along the way, so you remember why you were on that journey to begin with.
Right. So, we have seasoned entrepreneurs that are listening that are going through things. What are some obstacles that you've overcome to, or that you may still be going through, that they're going through?
Well, I would say the biggest one that I think everybody has is patience. We want everything done yesterday, especially those of us who want to make this great big impact in the world. We think, okay, we put in our 10,000 or 20,000 hours. Is it yet? Really to remember that purpose and help that keep you going as you're on this long entrepreneurial journey. And again, when you know that, when you know the mission behind what you do and you're open, you never know where opportunities will take you. So I will say, remain open and remain patient are the two big things.
Wow, I like that. That was loud. Everybody, I'm looking at you, and I've been thinking this entire time. You look so much like my sister Outlaw. We kept her in the divorce. It's scary. I want to call you Susan instead of Deb. But one of the things that it's true. That's like my ADD. I'm looking at you going, oh my God, you could be Susan.
But at least I look like the relative you like, the outlaw that you like.
Love her.
Thank you.
Love her to death. She's a trip. So we're at my cousin's last summer, and we're in the bay. We go out in the bay and we go to, they're like, you want clams? You got to work for your clams. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never liked clam before. So we're in the bay, and we're clamming. And Susan's like, I'm in the middle of the ocean. A shark is going to get me. And I'm like, we're in the bay. A shark is not going to get you. And all she kept saying was, with the New York Jewish, I'm in the middle of the ocean. The shark's going to get me. I said, a shark is not going to get you. So we go home to my cousin's house that night, and, we have, whatever. The next day, my friend and, Heather and our friends go back, to the beach. There were 6 sharks found in the bay. Wow. So I tell Susan, you were right. It was like we could have, they weren't there when we were, obviously, thank God. But it was like, oh my God, sharks are getting into the bay because of global warming. That's not happening, but that's another story. But anyway, so 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 for setting goals for growing, I think in order to grow, you have to set goals, right?
Yes.
You have to. There has to be a benchmark that you're striving for, and then you hit that benchmark, and then there's like another benchmark, right? And one of the biggest things that I've found, especially with women entrepreneurs, is society. We're here, right? And we're moving here. We're scaling to here. And because we've learned that society, as women, we're supposed to be here, some women self-sabotage and they keep themselves, there. They don't, move up. And when I was doing my scaling, it was really funny because I remember looking and going, I'm here, but I have to stay. How do I stay here? And how I stay there was by not shrinking, by not going, okay, I'm not supposed to be here. I should go back down. It was more like, screw that. Yeah, I'm going to hit here. And now guess what? I just set the bar higher because I'm going to keep going. And I was joking around saying that I was like, here's Machu Picchu. And I'm at like 3,000 steps. So I'm at step like 1,500. And there's this chasm, right? There's about 120 steps missing. So there's this hole that's in the way of me getting to that next step that'll get me to the top. So I'm working on, taking brick and mortar and filling those steps so that I can, work my way up there. Well, we're almost at an hour. So first I want to say thank you for taking time. I could talk to you for like another hour easily. Very easily. But so how do people find you? I know the Deb Method, the debmethod.com. Thank you, Kofi. For those of you listening, he just like popped it up because this is audio and video. So there are some people that can see us and other people that can't. You're on LinkedIn. Oh, Coach
Right.
Fun. That's cute. Okay. And then I don't know how I didn't know that. And your podcasts are.
So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I go live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific with 3 friends to dive into that topic of the week. And then it's also the Deb Show podcast where you can subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you can get the recaps and the links and find all of those episodes. My other show is tastebudswithdeb.com. Is Taste Buds with Deb. And you can go to Taste Buds with Deb or jewishjournal.com/podcasts and find Taste Buds with Deb there. And that I pre-record, but they go live every Wednesday. So new episodes come out Wednesday morning, and then the live streams go up at noon. So those are the two places. But if you find me on LinkedIn, jot a note, say, I met you through you and Iris, so let's connect. And I will be more than happy to connect with you. And you can email info@thedebmethod.com, and I am at the Deb Method everywhere.
Awesome. And it's all about the Deb Method. So
you can't get what you want unless you know what you want, right?
Right.
And you're talking about those steps before.
Yeah.
If you Google goal setting expert, it's all met. So I am working on. I'm want to break that. It gets to be me, and it has to be me.
Yes.
So in the way that I look at things, and you need to set those big goals. You need to see what you're working for. But for me, it's not just being, the most Googleable. For me, is how can I help more people? Because there are more people who know about me, the more people get inspired But the big message is with any goals, it starts with choosing yourself, gifting yourself the time and energy to figure out what that path is, and then setting appointments with yourself to do the things you need to do to get there. And it really is goal setting simplified.
Awesome. And the last question that I ask all of my guests is, what lights your fire?
Food. Obviously. I mean, as a reformed non-cook, I could not believe how much cooking and food really enhances my life. And my favorite is the Instant Pot, which requires absolutely no fire, but you put in ingredients and then you set it to go, and then you can get something done, and then you're rewarded with food. So this love of the Instant Pot is what led to me writing about food, what led to writing to my food podcast. So, all the benefits of food and many more. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Hang on one second. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. I'll be right back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, again, thank you so much for hanging in an hour plus. I'm thrilled at the value that you're getting from this. I used to say, I hope you're getting value, but I know that you are. I'm getting messages and emails, and so I'm really glad that you're connecting with my guests, and Deb is awesome. So, but yeah, go like and share. If you've gotten any golden nuggets out of today's conversation, share it, subscribe. When you subscribe, you get a notification of a new episode that just came out. And yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you, and have a great week. And until next time, go find what lights your fire. See ya.